What's up guys, it's Chris from Drone Geek Lancaster here today with 5 tips on how you can avoid crashing your drone. I struggled with whether or not I wanted to actually do this topic because I feel like, in all fairness, if I'm going to tell you how not to crash your drone, I should at least share how I learned these things, and that's through 2 crashes of my own. One was back in 2017 in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I had a crash where I flew my Phantom 3 through metal playground equipment, and I didn't realize that the metal in the playground equipment would actually mess with the DJI Phantom's compass and cause it to go haywire. I was just drifting through this playground equipment, and all of a sudden it just right into the side of the pole, went down, broke all the propellers. It was a mess, but luckily the DJI Phantom wasn't hurt too badly. My most recent crash, though, just happened around this past Christmas. I was shooting a video for the Christmas lights of Lancaster County with my Mavic 2 zoom, and I didn't survey the area very well. I had an issue where I tell you what, let's actually take a look because I still have footage of that crash. There's Christmas lights doing a nice little arch around the covered bridge, just really enjoying our flight. It's a little dark out, but the lights are just popping off the camera. It's great, we're having so much fun, it's Christmas time, the drone's flying, everything. Whoa.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Ooh, ouch. Yeah, you don't want that to happen to you, believe me. Now, as you saw in the video, the Mavic actually didn't hit the ground. It stayed in the air, which was great, so golf clap for the Mavic 2 zoom for maintaining flight after running into a bunch of branches and pretty much destroying all of the propellers that it had on it at the time. The propeller issue actually caused the drone to handle funny, and I was in the dark, unfamiliar location, and I didn't really have good control over the drone, so that made it all that much more tense getting the drone back to my location. So everything's fine, the drone's okay, and the only major complication that I had that I didn't foresee other than the broken propellers was an actual chunk of the foot that locks into the motor from the propeller broke off inside. So I had to really gently and carefully extract that with a Phillips head screwdriver. So needless to say, the drone's fine, I'm still making content with it, and everybody's okay. But I do want to help you avoid my mistakes. So let's talk about the top 5 things you can do to avoid crashing your drone. Number 1, inspect your surroundings. Survey the area. I cannot stress this enough to you because had I done that with the Mavic 2 zoom on that crash that I had, I probably could have avoided it. Now, we were in the dark, so it was hard to see as it was, but had I just taken the time to walk through there and notice where the branches were hanging down and where the trees stood, I might have had a better idea of where I should have stopped my pan around that covered bridge. But I didn't inspect my surroundings, so always make sure you take the time, just walk through where you're going to be shooting if it's possible, and make sure that you just look for anything that could obstruct the flight path of your drone. It'll save you a lot of headache in the long run. Number 2, be aware of objects that could indirectly impact your flight. What do I mean by this? I'm not talking about trees because they directly impact your flight. You have to fly around trees and objects. No, I'm talking about actual metal structures that could mess with the compass or the signal from your controller to your drone. It happens. Anytime you fly near a big metal building like a warehouse or a parking garage, you'll notice that your signal strength just isn't quite what it usually is. It's because you have an obstruction that's large and metal and can actually mess with the electronics inside your drone, or at least the signal that gets to those electronics. So in my case with the Phantom 3, be careful flying around big metal objects in particular because they can really throw your flight off and you won't even see it coming. Another great example, radio and TV antennas. Those big tall structures, they're so much fun to fly around because you can go way up high in the air, take a look at them, see something up close that you've seen your entire life from far away. But that signal and that frequency that comes to and from that antenna, that's what causes the drone to go a little haywire and act a little funny on the flight. So always keep that in mind. Always make sure you're aware of objects that could indirectly impact your flight path. Number 3, know when weather makes it unsafe to fly. Now, it's a no-brainer that when it's raining, you don't necessarily want to take your drone out and fly because that water can get into the drone and cause some real issues for you, both in the short term during your flight and in the long term with the health of the drone. But a lot of people are unsure about wind and wind speeds and how it impacts their drone flight, especially those folks that have Mavic Minis where it's a little more touchy with the wind gusts. make sure that you understand your drone's wind rating. And if you don't know it or it isn't stated in the actual user manual, you can figure it out by taking the max speed of your drone and the weight and plugging it into calculators online that can tell you what the maximum wind gust your drone can withstand. There's also an equation that I'm not going to get into in this video, but there are a lot of resources out there to help you better understand what your drone can put up with as it relates to wind gusts. So make sure that you always understand what your drone can handle and what weather makes it unsafe to fly. Number 4, rely on visual line of sight mainly and whenever possible. A lot of us, especially me, with those DJI goggles where you can actually look in and see what's going on from the perspective of your drone, it's so cool, but you always have to fly safely, and the best way to fly safely and the way that you're supposed to fly is with visual line of sight, whether that's through the actual remote pilot in command or a visual observer there helping you with the flight. Always make sure somebody has eyes on your drone, because there's no better way to observe the area around your drone while it's in the air than actually having eyes on it. You can see everything around the drone and you can tell whether or not it's a safe location for your drone to be flying or if there are any obstacles that you need to avoid on your flight path. And last but certainly not least, number 5, understand your drone's personality. Every drone has its own personality, whether you fly FPV and you custom make your own drones, or you fly DJI, Autel, Skydio, whatever, factory-made drones. Every drone has its own personality. I'm a firm believer in that. And before you go out and take your drone as far as it can go or as high as it can go within FAA regulations, of course, make sure you understand what your drone's capable of and how it flies. The flight characteristics can greatly impact you as a pilot. And if you understand those, you'll become a better pilot because you'll know what your drone is capable of, how it handles in certain situations, and you'll know best how to fly it in any given situation. So, always make sure you learn your drone's personality. So, to recap, the top 5 things that I can recommend for you not to crash your drone. Number 1, survey your surroundings, understand where you're flying. Number 2, be aware of any objects that might indirectly impact your drone's flight, including television and radio antennas, as well as just large metal structures. Number 3, understand what weather is safe to fly in and what weather is not safe to fly in. Number 4, fly with visual line of sight whenever possible, and always mainly rely on visual line of sight when flying your drone. And number 5, understand your drone's personality. Learn how it moves, learn how it handles, you'll be a better pilot for it. That's it for me today, guys. This is Chris with Drone Geek Lancaster. Make sure you like this video if you found it helpful, and you know what? Even if you didn't find it that helpful, give me a like. It helps me out immensely, and while you're at it, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that bell icon. You'll get notifications when you hit the bell icon every time I post a new video, and I'm hoping to have some really good stuff for you here in the future. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications, make sure you like this video. It helps me out tremendously. This is Chris with Drone Geek Lancaster. Have a good day.